Hello. Hello, great books people. Steve Kirkhoff here, coming at you with some comments on the first, almost third of Oedipus the King. Those of you who were not in class on Friday missed the announcement that there is no class this week, and also the introduction to the play itself. And I'm sorry that you didn't get that. But you know that this is one of the classics in all of dramatic sort of literature, that Sophocles was reputed as one of the greatest tragic writers produced by the Greek country itself. Going back to the 5th century BCE, the time of Socrates, Plato, the time of the highest reaches of Athenian culture and military prowess, and the highest sort of reach of their philosophical, legal, political, artistic, military. I mean, just everything was converging in this incredible flourishing of the Athenian democratic society. Sophocles was one of the artists, and he had a very keen insight into the human condition. And let's get to it. Let's get to Oedipus the King. So it starts out, there's already trouble. Even though Oedipus has been the king of Thebes since coming there and solving the riddle of the Sphinx some 20 odd years before, he's had great success. He's flourished. He's had 4 children, 2 boys. They don't figure in this play, and then a daughter, 2 daughters, Antigone and Ismene, and Antigone figures in the very end of the play. He's married to Jocasta, who was the wife of the former king named Laius, who was mysteriously killed. Mysterious because the murder has never been solved. He was out traveling with some attendants of his on the road somewhere, on the way to Corinth, I believe, was where there was an intersection of roads, and at this intersection there was a dispute with another traveler or travelers. It's unclear whether the murderer was a single murderer or whether there were plural murderers, and I want to lay some emphasis on that because that's kind of interesting given what is going to transpire in this play. So when we begin the play, the very opening scene, the city is in turmoil, and Oedipus struts out onto this. I shouldn't say strut, because the way he walks is actually a part of the deal. He doesn't strut. Oedipus walks with a little bit of a limp. He's somewhat lame. He has a disorder with his feet because of, well, he's had it since childhood. He knows that. So anyway, Oedipus, the man from somewhere else, the stranger who came and made it big in Thebes and saved the city, he's like unto a god in the minds of the people. Now the city is suffering. And Oedipus comes out and says, because the children have come with their little symbolic sticks wrapped with wool, which means something, I'm not sure what, maybe a supplication to a god. Oh, my children, the new blood of ancient Thebes, why are you here huddling at my altar? It's godlike, huddling at my altar, praying before me. Your branches wound in wool. Our city reeks with the smoke of burning incense, rings with the cries for the healer and wailing for the dead. I thought it wrong, my children, to hear the truth from others, messengers. Here I am myself. You all know me. The world knows my fame. I am Oedipus. That's pretty assertive position that he takes. He references the altar as his, and here you are burning incense as if you're doing it for me. And the city needs healing. The city needs a healer. Maybe I can be the healer. That means there's some kind of a sickness. But we don't think of like problems that we have with our crops, or we don't believe necessarily that some of our problems with drought and fire, our problems with say global warming, we don't think that we don't think of this as a sickness per se, as some sort of moral malaise, but that's the way it was thought of here. There's a sickness, it needs a healer, it needs a cure. Speak up, old man, because the old man has brought the children. Your years, your dignity, you should speak for the others. Why here and kneeling? What preys upon you so? Some sudden fear, some strong desire? You can trust me. I am ready to help. I'll do anything. I would be blind to misery, not to pity my people kneeling at my feet. That language is rich. His feet, his name is Oedipus, which can mean several things. Oedipus, which means swollen from edema, and pus, that is the word for foot. So swollen foot. He's often, his name is often interpreted to mean swollen foot because of some injury that he had or some sort of deformity that he suffered as a child. Supposedly it was an injury because he was exposed on a mountainside by his own father and mother because of a prophecy that they had heard about him. This is what is told about Oedipus. This is his background, and he's called Swollen Foot. That's his name. But it also sounds like there's something that it sounds like in the Greek. There's a homophone. So when you say Oedipus, it sounds like a word that means truth, or rather no foot. K-N-O-W, foot. And this is just clever language is all I'm going to say. So when we stand on our feet, that's what puts us on the ground. That's what puts us in contact with the Mother Earth, with the soil. Our feet are sensitive to all kinds of things. Like you go out barefoot, you know how sensitive your feet are. They're also exquisitely designed to help us to travel over the earth. There's a way that we stand up and become ourselves. It's essential to our human being to have functional feet, to make us two-footed. And there was a riddle posed by the Sphinx that Oedipus solved, and that was all about feet. How many feet do people go on? So the essence of a man, the essence of measuring peoplehood, what a human being is knowing us when we stand erect on 2 feet. Then you know who you are. That's when we reach the fullness, our noon, when the sun is at the highest point in the day. That's the riddle is all about. Knowing what a 2-footed is, knowing who you are, knowing yourself, knowing your own humanity. There's a lot involved in the people kneeling at his feet. Whose feet are they? He thinks that they're the feet of a guy who grew up in Corinth under the parents Merope and Polybus. He thinks he's an outsider to Thebes, but the backstory is he's actually was born in Thebes to Laius and Jocasta, then he was exposed as a child. But he doesn't know that. And so the city is now suffering, and there has to be some sort of cure for it. What's happening to the city? A blight on the fresh crops. Cattle sicken and die. Women die in labor. Children are stillborn. The plague, the fiery god of fever, hurls down on the city. His lightning slashing through us. Raging plague in all its vengeance, devastating the house of Cadmus. Cadmus was the ancient founder of the city. Oedipus's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. So the people come to Oedipus because of all this suffering. And there's this sense that there has to be some kind of dealing with the ancient crime. They go on to say, we pray to you. You cannot equal the gods. Your children know that, bending at your altar, but we do rate you first of men. We bend to you, it says in the next stanza. Act now, we beg of you, it says 10 lines later. Oh, raise up our city. Set us on our feet. This play is obsessed with feet. It's just ironic. Set us on our feet, put us straight to where we are. We need to be put straight. There's a blight. There's something sick happening to the city. Now, when cities suffer, like when there's a depression or an economic recession, like the things I was saying before, we don't think this way. We don't think that someone needs to be punished, but that's where this is heading. That's where all this is heading as we keep moving through. So, Oedipus shows that he cares. for the people. He comes out, he addresses them. He tells them that he's already acted quickly to get word from the oracle, because you go to the oracle Delphi, the oracle to Apollo, to find out what your direction is, what's going on here. And he has already sent, because the chorus, which is like the town elders, right? The chorus has asked him, would you please, so the idea is that Oedipus is a good king. He's very smart. He showed that by solving the riddle of Sphinx. No one else could. And now in Thebes, again, it's our hour of need. He's acting quickly. The chorus, which is that sort of like the chamber of commerce of Thebes, they're the elders, they're the people who express the opinion of the city. They ask him, what are you going to do? And he says, well, I've already sent my brother-in-law, Creon, my wife's brother, Creon. I've sent him to find out from the oracle what it is that's bothering us and what we can do about it. And if you look on lines 120-ish, 115, Oedipus says to Creon after Creon enters, because Creon says, we need to drive the pollution, the corruption from the land. Don't harbor it any longer. Don't keep the pollution among us. Past all cure, don't nurse it in your soil. Root it out, nurse it in the soil. Feet walk on the soil. Gaia, earth, is mother. Oedipus says, how can we cleanse ourselves? There's this idea of purification, cleansing. What rights, R-I-T-E-S? What's the source of the trouble? Creon says, banish the man or pay back blood with blood. Murder sets the plague storm on the city. Whose murder? Oedipus says, whose fate does Apollo bring to light? Creon says, our leader, my lord, was once a man named Laius. Before you came and put us straight on course. Oedipus says, I know, so I've heard. I never saw the man myself. Really? Creon says, well, he was killed, and Apollo commands us now. He could not be more clear. And this is in quotes. This is what Creon says. Right down here at the bottom of the page. Pay the killers back. This seems to be what he's reporting were the actual words from the oracle. Pay the killers back, whoever is responsible. That's a strange thing. He says killers. And then we go through this. The killers of Laius need to be found and paid back. They need to be punished in some way. That will cleanse the city of the pollution, which is now causing crops to fail, children to be stillborn, etc. And Oedipus says, well, why didn't you do this before? Laius was killed 20 years ago. Why now, all of a sudden, does this need to be done? Oedipus says, your king was murdered. Royal blood. What stopped you from tracking down the killer then and there? I'm on line 145. And Creon says, the singing, riddling Sphinx. She persuaded us to let the mystery go and concentrate on what lay at our feet. That's line 148. The Sphinx, prior to Oedipus's arrival into the city, so there must have been some time, if Oedipus was in fact guilty of killing Laius, there must have been a lag time between the actual murder of Laius and Oedipus coming to the city and confronting the Sphinx. And in that in-between time, the people were communicating with the Sphinx, and the Sphinx says, you know what, you need to really concentrate on what lays at your feet, what lies at your feet. That's interesting. Feet again. What about feet? Whose feet? Our foot. What lies at our feet? Maybe they were supposed to make some connection to feet. Look at feet. Feet will help you to find out what's wrong. Well, who walks strangely? Who walks with a limp? Who's lame? Whose feet were pinioned together? That would be Oedipus, but the people didn't get it. The people didn't understand what the Sphinx was saying. The Sphinx laid another riddle on them. So then Oedipus decides to, speak to the people. He does this directly to them. He's like, does anyone want to confess? If any of you know if any one of you knows who murdered Laius, the son of Labdacus, that was Laius's father, Oedipus's grandfather, supposedly, I order him to reveal the whole truth to me, nothing to fear, even if he must denounce himself. So anybody just want to come forward and confess? Nobody comes forward, absolute silence. Next thing he says, if anyone knows the murderer is a stranger, a man from alien soil, because strangers are like lame people. They are different from us, right? These are the people that we can scandalize. Speak up. I will give him a handsome reward and lay up my gratitude in my heart for him besides. But if you keep silent, if anyone panicking, trying to shield himself or friend or kin rejects my offer, then hear what I will do. I order you, every citizen of the state where I hold throne and power, banish this man, whoever he may be, never shelter him, never speak a word to him, never make him partner to your prayers, your victims burn to the gods, never let the holy water touch his hands, drive him out, each of you from every home. He is the plague, the heart of our corruption, as Apollo's oracle has just revealed to me. So I honor my obligations. I fight for the God and for the murdered man. Whew. Do you see that parallelism between what happened to Oedipus as a child? Oedipus, the son of Laius, Laius, who would not have any intercourse with his wife Jocasta because he had heard this oracle. So they never slept together, but one night Laius got a little tipsy and the two of them lay together. She conceived a child, brought it to term. It was a boy. The boy was prophesied to come forward and kill the father and then to take the wife, take the mother in marriage. They didn't want that to happen. So they exposed this child. They pinned his ankles together and he has a limp ever since that happened to him. But think about what happened to this kid. Is this not a crime against the child? The child was exposed to die. The parents tried to murder the child. They abandoned the child, left him exposed on a mountainside. You think about that. You think about the sort of deep layers of unconscious sort of pain and knowledge in a way held down in the unconscious mind of what happened. And this fear that Oedipus had after being spoken about as not truly the son, not truly the son of the king and queen of Corinth, where he was raised up, and then he fled Corinth after going to the oracle. This whole mess of psychological backdrop is something that's underneath the lines here as we go reading through this play. Then, as it goes on, Oedipus talks to the leader of the chorus, because they said, look, we've sent for this blind prophet named Tiresias. We need him because he's got foresight. The gods have given him this special ability. He will come and help us to detect the murderer. And so Oedipus says, okay, fine. The leader of the chorus says, Laius was killed, they say, by certain travelers, plural. Well, who killed Laius? Was it one or was it more than one? Oedipus, I know, but no one can find the murderer. Do you see what just happened there? The leader of the chorus says, certain travelers. And then Oedipus replies, I know, but they say that they never found the murderer. That's this very clever little shift there. They say murderers did it. They say it was a group. They say it was a bunch of brigands, highwaymen who killed their king and got away with it. But Oedipus, hearing that, says, I know, but no one can find the murderer. Why this insistence on it being one? What's going on here with the many versus the one? Anyway, Tiresias is going to come on the stage. I'm going to stop here now so I don't overburden you. Tiresias is going to come on the stage. I will go on the second video. I'll do Tiresias up to Jocasta, and then from the third video will be to the end. All right. I hope you guys are doing great. Keep your reading going, and I will see you on the 20th.